Moving on to our next topic, which, man, this is really, I don't know, Mike, if you've been paying attention, because I know you've been doing a bunch of stuff today, but I've been preaching this for like the last 2 years, and this is like blowing up now, like blowing up. So, what we're talking about, we had another competitor, IFBB Pro, pass away at her competition right after getting tanned. Passed away, coached by Shelby Starnes. And this is not the first time Shelby Starnes has had a competitor pass away. And I don't necessarily, like, this is being talked about a lot. Like, even people associated with the Manions are involved. But, like, I've been preaching this for the last couple of years in the Northwest. And, like, people kind of look at me like I'm an asshole about bad and improper coaching and people damaging and harming people. And it's like, people keep dying and it keeps happening. And so, Mike, you're obviously an IFBB Pro, and if you guys don't know, Charlie has a master's degree in nursing education, so he'll be able to enlighten us about a lot of this stuff. But I just kind of wanted to go over some of these situations and why I am so passionate about bad coaching and safety practices while competing in the first place. And I think, CJ, you'll probably have a great perspective, seeing as that, like, you're just kind of getting into lifting and you're younger, and you're looking at a sport saying, like, man, why would I be associated with this? And I really say it doesn't have to be this way. Like, people, you don't need to die for your hobby. For one, it's a hobby. And, like, it's funny when people make comments about Mike, but, like, me and Charlie have both seen Mike's blood work, because Mike had Graves' disease, which was an actual disease, and had to have his thyroid taken out. And Mike was getting a lot of blood work for it. And, Mike's 40, has been bodybuilding, competing for, 15, how many, 18 years, something like that. This dude's blood work was for sure better than mine.
It looked great. I was like, what?
Shockingly good, and at 40 years out of competing at this age, for this long, to literally not have one bodybuilding related, acute or like long-term injury. Like, it's shocking that it's shocking to me, because it's just like, it's the norm. Because I think the vast majority of competitors who are competing for a while nowadays and running the things they run and doing the things they do and who do not get their blood work or even know how to read it, are having heart issues, kidney issues, liver issues, cholesterol issues, and people are dying. And so, I mean, I don't know, Mike, how comfortable you are talking about some situations, but I mean, we both know 6, 8, 10 bodybuilders in the Northwest who've died in the last few years.
Yeah, man, it's fucking sad, bro. I mean, it's one of those things that people don't, it's like they don't want to talk about it. It's like everyone, and you and I have talked about this. I talked about this with Charlie and even CJ. We had some little conversations. It's like everyone wants, when something bad happens, then everyone is like, oh, in loving memory of this person, he was this, he was that, he was great. I mean, dude, let's just be real. Like, I mean, these people were pushing the limits, man. You know what I'm saying? And even Charlie and Nick know, Nick, from when I got sick, in 2015, when I had a few episodes early on 2000, that the doctors just didn't diagnose me. They literally, when I went to the hospital, they looked at me, they were like, oh, you're a bodybuilder, probably steroid related, sent me home, and that was that. And it wasn't until I actually saw a specialist, and that was by accident, because I was in the hospital in Puyallup, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. But, like, my blood work, everything was normal, right? And I'm literally telling them, like, this is what I take, this is what I do, this is how long I've been training. and they were still convinced it was something that they basically just kept telling me, well, what did you do? What did you take? And I'm like, you can see from my charts, I didn't take anything, you know? And so when I found out I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, I had gotten sick again. And you saw firsthand the episodes and the flare-ups that I had. And everyone assumed when people heard about that, the first thing, it was like, oh, yep, Michael tried to kill himself and almost died because he takes too many steroids. He pushes the limit.
He had a bad shot.
I mean, a bad shot. We heard
bad shot. That's what we heard. Bad shot. I heard it go around at a show, like you know, right after you got out of the hospital. Oh, Mike had a bad shot.
It was ridiculous, man, and it wasn't. You know, the whole time I'm trying to tell these people, you know, like, listen, man, I have a condition, and it literally is one of those things that I'm that 1%. You know, if anyone looks up like Graves' disease, Hashimoto's, anything thyroid related, it's common in like 80%. You know, of Asian, African American, Hispanic men are really prone to it. And the doctor even said, he was just the specialist in Seattle, Swedish, was like, you're half Asian and half black. You're that 1% for, like, you hit the lottery for this mutation of all worst bad situations that could happen to someone if they have a flare-up. You got it. I mean, I went into cardiac arrest 3 times. Nick, you literally had to physically carry me out of my house because I was paralyzed from a flare-up. And like, everyone wants to blame and say that it was because of steroids. And like, you two also are the only ones outside of my wife and my family that have seen my blood work and have seen, like, listen, that's what it is. Like,
I was jealous of your blood work.
Dude, your blood work's better than mine.
I was like, how is this dude? Because I've seen the way, like, you know, with your thyroid disease, like the amount of food that you were able to eat and stuff, like it was insane. And it was just like, bro, how can you do this and look the way you do? But that was the thing. And it's like, because you're a bodybuilder, you get labeled that and you get associated with that because of all of these things that are going on, you know. And it probably started, I'm trying to think if Matt Porter was when it started for me, where I really started to get upset about coaching. I feel like it was a little bit before that. It was a little bit before that because Matt Porter actually had a client who died, I believe. And no one talks about it. Here's what's crazy to me, right? So this competitor who just passed away, they passed away. John Meadows passed away. John Meadows had, you know, a lot of medical issues that were hereditary as well. I'm sure what he did exacerbated things, but I think he also lived the life that he wanted to live. So I don't think his was like a straight up acute injury, abuse injury. It was just like when you have that type of mass over that type of time with chronic health problems, your lifespan's probably going to be lower. So you had that. You had Rich Piana. You had Dallas McCarver, 24 years old. You have these like huge people in the industry, right? These huge. That is a minuscule amount compared to the local level competitor who is getting severely damaged, who's getting heart disease, kidney disease, liver failure, and passing away without any, just like, hush, Anytime Fitness, Jim Centralia, the owner passed away at Nationals. I remember my friend calling me because it was his coach and bawling out because he was doing the show too, and she literally just went into cardiac arrest. Like, these are the things that I have personally seen. So that happened. And then like Matt, you know, talked about, he wants people who are willing to do whatever it takes in order to win. And like, it's crazy. And then like we saw, like, I remember seeing him at Emerald Cup, and I remember he checked in before the show, and like he said his age, he was the same age as me. He said, "Oh, I'm 36." I was like 35 at the time, and I was like, "You look 50."
But how old he looked?
Like,
how old?
Shocked,
Yeah.
shocked at how, like, look at the transition from Dallas McCarver, how old, like, how this is just, they are literally putting their body through the most intense things, and these are just like the acute, like, or the quicker ones we're talking about because of, you know, insulin and diuretics and blood pressure and body weight. And we're not talking even about the 20, 30-year reduced lifespans, the heart problems that people are going to have, the kidney problem. You're seeing these people starting to drop like flies, and now it's getting younger and younger. We had a guy up in, what was it, Bellevue, Everett, the guy who almost like had his, literally almost died. He's like 26 years old, had almost passed away. Is like had to get like almost had to get a heart transplant or something like that. You used to get nosebleeds during his workouts and brag about it. Like, I get it. It's cool to be cool, but like, at what point, like, this gets crazy? So then, you know, Matt, it sucks. I feel bad for his family and his friends and all this stuff, but like, this is what's going on, and people are seeing it.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, like that Emerald Cup when we were there and saw Matt. You know, that was one of the last times I got to talk to him. You know, and I asked him how he was doing. I remember him telling me, you know, that he didn't feel good, and I said, "Yeah, man, but you're fucking huge." You know, because he was a big motherfucker. I was like, "You don't feel great, but you just won, and you're fucking huge." And you know, I told him, I was like, "Man, I wish you all the best success in your career, and it's great to see everything you've done." And I remember him telling me, you know, I was like, you know, man, I just wish, you know, people would listen to me for what I have to say as much as, you know, they listen to you. And I remember him telling me, he goes, you know what, Spencer? Because Matt and I, people don't know this, but Matt Porter and I, we competed against each other. Very few years, the first couple of years of my bodybuilding career, I battled with Matt at a couple shows, Washington States, the Northwest. Like, I mean, we went head to head at a few shows, and then, you know, he moved to Vegas to pursue his business. But, you know, I remember Matt telling me, he goes, you know, man, I may be huge, but I feel like shit. And he goes, you know, the one thing I can say about you is that you've always been consistent, man. And no matter what anyone says to you, you've always just done what Mike Spencer wanted to do. And you never had to feel like you had to prove anything to anybody. And I'm just like, yeah, man, I just like bodybuilding for what it is, man. You know, you know, I learned early on when I got to work out and hang out with like Freeman and some of these top guys, you know, Martinez and them, and, you know, even talking with Phil. I mean, those guys used to tell me, man, and even Brandon, you know, when he was here at our gym in Lacey, Brandon told me, he goes, listen, man, at the end of the day, there is a price to pay. And whether that is with your time, your relationship, your kids, your own life, he goes, something will give if you push it too hard. He's like, so, you know, one of the things you and I always talked about, Nick, was like, you know, what is living a bodybuilder's dream? Like, like you hear these guys all the time talk about like, oh, I want to live the life, man. I want to, and it's like, what does that look like? You know what I'm saying? Because like after I turned professional in 2017, before, you know, buying, you know, into the business, being a part of West Coast and the brand, it was like, I tell people this all the time. Still, it cracks me up because I remember Nick was like, you know, he's so straight up. He's like, okay, so now what, bro? Like, now what with your life? You got the pro card. I don't want to rain on your parade, but like, now what? And I was like, fuck, man, I don't know. What do you mean? And he literally said, he's like, oh, so now what? You're just gonna be a glorified trainer? And I was just like, fuck. I mean, I remember going home and laughing about that, telling my wife Caitlin, like, this motherfucker just called me. I'm a goddamn IFBB. But after it like sunk in, I was like, yeah, man, now what? You know, now I'm at this level, and now I'm gonna have to go harder. And so it made me take a step back and kind of reevaluate, like, okay, do I want to do bodybuilding just because I love it and I enjoy it, or am I going to let this like consume my life? And I think a lot of these guys in the industry, that's what's happening to them, is they're letting other people dictate how big they should be, how strong they should be, you know, how many followers, you know, this and that, their look, and they're not taking control, or they're not even having people in their corner like I have you, Charlie, and Nick, that are going to be like, if I'm going down the wrong path, you'll be like, hey, real quick, like, Mike, that's not a good idea.
And I will say this, like, if anyone has a problem with some of the things that we talk about, or we say, or the people that we name or drop, like, because this is reality. People are getting hurt. People are getting, you know, life-changing events. This is very necessary. I am sorry that I am not willing to put people on a pedestal who are harming other people and influencing other people to do dangerous things. So I'm sorry that I am willing to be an asshole and call you out if you are knowingly and willingly putting people in a harmful position. And what's tough is someone like with Matt, is Matt had lots of clients. His clients turned into coaches and then passed along this. Boston made this point on his podcast with Blue, who is your coach. Now, when Blue sent you what you needed to do, I said to you, man, I am shocked at how conservative that is. He's a good coach who cares about his actual. Blue is one of the best coaches I have seen because he communicates with you, he talks to you, he guides you, and he does it in the safe. Like I was blown away. I was like, yeah, that's for pro level class physique. Like with your like, that's probably what I would say is a good idea too. And it was shocking because like what people are having people do because of their previous coach or this, it's insane to me. Like they're having bikini girls do protocols that bodybuilders are doing with diuretics and stuff. Like what Matt was telling people to do is crazy. Like Neil Blasingame, we all saw him. Man, the last time I saw him in Portland,
He didn't look.
I was like, you're gonna die.
No, he did not look.
He was like 270 pounds. He could barely breathe, and everybody knew he's taking all this insulin, trying to be on the Olympia stage. I was like, if you're gonna be on that stage, like you'd already be there. And I tried to explain this. Like if you ever meet top level elite genetic people, like if you ever meet an NBA player or an NFL player or an Olympian, you're like, dude, you're built different. Like you at 40 years old, Mike, you're not winning the Olympia.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like there's a reason why Chris Bumstead and Shanique Grant are 25 years old. Like when you're talking about like you can't do it. And I'm like, so what do? You try to push more. You look at someone who is already at like who has this better response to the things they do, and so you say, well, I don't have that, so I have to make up for it by taking, insulin and more drugs and more insulin and more drugs and more insulin and more drugs and more growth hormone, and you literally just put your body under so much stress. And I got pissed because I saw the protocols that Neil was giving to my female friends.
Yeah, they were out of control.
That were like no, like what, you're literally prescribing 5-6 different steroids to a figure girl.
Yeah.
But like we can't talk about that. Respect. I feel terrible for his family and his friends. I feel terrible for Matt's but like his friends. These people did harm a lot of people. Let's get that straight. And a lot of people told them you might want to stop. Behind the scenes, I saw the text messages you got. Like, oh, we knew. Like, oh, we knew that he was. We all knew. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. And then when it happens, we're like, I didn't know. And then behind the scenes, that was, that was sure. Like that for sure. It was not good. It was not good.
So as a person who has no real insight into this, right? Is it safe to say that like the vast majority or pretty much all of this is just them taking too much steroids, or is it them trying to be too high of a weight, or like what's the explain it like I'm 5 breakdown as to why this is
generally happening? Steroids are not they don't cause immediate death. You're not going to baseline a gram of tren and test and all these things and die tomorrow. That is not going to happen. Will you potentially take a lot of years off of your life? Absolutely. And I think like I could explain that, but let's hear it from Charlie. Why just steroids alone? Then we'll go into the other things. Why will just actual steroids? Why will those? What type of health complications will those cause in the short term and the long term?
Yeah, so that's pretty. I mean, it's multifaceted, but like, so most steroids and especially bodybuilders who are using, supraphysiological, very high doses of steroids, what basically happens is like you don't feel when you have high blood pressure, right? Like most people don't feel that. So like let's say, like your 32-year-old competitor has really high blood pressure and he doesn't know it, and he never comes off gear, right? He's just blasting gear all the time. Even when he's not taking a lot, he's still taking way more than would ever be used in like medically, and so what that's doing, it's like these silent killers, right? That then turn into these real real, physiological problems. So, you get the high blood pressure, probably not feeling that unless it's like really, really high, right? So you're just living with higher blood pressure and a heavier weight, right? So right off the bat, like heavier weight, higher blood pressure, stress on the heart, stress on the kidneys, right? So, as your heart starts to be more taxed, I mean, that basically, leads to, heart growth, cardiac myopathy, I believe. And so the heart starts to grow, which can happen with regular exercise anyway. You do a lot of cardio,
And
your heart might
elite
grow a little
athletes,
bit.
like they tend to have
Yes.
enlarged hearts, so like that can happen.
But it's not going to be to
Yeah.
the same level. And as somebody who's pumping 1, 2, or however many grams of gear, or are going to have, so then they're getting the high blood pressure issues, just damaging the kidneys, and that's another one. Like, they're not going to feel any problems that are going on with their kidneys. Like, their body's not going to be like, oh hey, like 80% of your nephrons and your kidneys that filter your blood are dead, like they're no longer functional. They don't feel these things. So then it really just, it builds up. And then they throw in some orals, right? So then we're taxing the liver. So it's all of these negative things that are happening to their bodies over an extended period of time, where they very realistically have no idea that they are doing serious damage to their bodies, to their kidneys, their liver, their heart, not even to include the entire vascular and circulatory system. I mean,
So,
it is
Charlie, would you
so
say that someone,
multifaceted.
I kind of estimate that someone can abuse steroids for about 20 to 30 years before they start running into serious complications, if that's all they're doing. Like, you're going to start, like, so let's say you start at 20-25, at around 45 to 50, you're probably going to potentially start having heart, kidney, liver. You're going to start noticing this at a pretty high pace.
Well, absolutely. And then, I mean, so you have the timeline there, but like, you also get into the huge amount of stress that is put on the body, not only from getting extremely heavy in the off season, which is still very common, unfortunately.
We're going to get into the diuretics and all that stuff too. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But like, outside of that, okay.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can just
So
talk about
I would
that.
say, like the vast majority of the public says, oh, these people are dying from steroids. Generally are not dying from steroids. It's like, doing steroids is the equivalent of like smoking. Like, you do it long enough,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're gonna run into some health complications. Like, you're going to. It's like drinking. If you drink for 25 years, I've heard a doctor say, I would rather you take a whole bunch of steroids than you be an alcoholic. Like, any day of the week, it does vastly more damage if you're doing this on a regular basis. Compared to being like an alcoholic. They say it's like way more. And now like that. So that's kind of, but the blanket statement for someone probably like you or someone younger or uneducated is just going to be like, look at Mike and say, ugh, he's dying at 40. Oh, it's steroids. Oh, it's like, if he were to die, that's what it would be. Not the fact that he had like a serious, like, could have died very easily thyroid condition. They would just look at him and say, oh, that's her. And generally people do not die from steroids. That is what none of these deaths are being attributed to. None of them.
So before we get into diuretics and dive into that, I just want to ask maybe one more quick question. So Mike mentioned, and I'm horrible with names, I'm sorry, but he mentioned one of the guys that he talked to before they passed saying they didn't feel good. And it was like right after like they won, right? So when Charlie, you said that the things like high blood pressure or, maybe, like different body parts or whatever it is, like not working as well as they should. If it gets to the point where they are feeling those things, like, is there a point of no return? Like, is there a point where it's like you've already done too much damage to your, like, up until the point where you actually pass? Could these people have stopped doing whatever they were doing the day before and this would not have happened? Or is there a point where you've done too much damage that it's irreversible?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, but I'll approach it from two directions here. In theory, like there is always an opportunity. You know, like life is not black and white. So, I mean, yeah, like somebody pumps tons of gear for 25 years, right? And then they're like, oh man, like they just get this feeling like I don't feel good, and they go in and get some blood work and get some other imaging and testing done, and they're like, oh man, like I'm basically in heart failure. I have an ejection fraction of like 40% or 50% or whatever. Or my kidney, I'm in chronic kidney disease stage 3, stage 4. Like my kidneys are failing. Well, let's look at Flex Wheeler, right? He had major chronic kidney disease, kidney failure, right? But he has done whatever he needed to do to go forward, you know, and continue to live. He required a kidney transplant. So I don't think it's ever too late if they're not
And
already
that wasn't
dead.
because of steroids.
But
that was because of
knowledge
diuretics.
of it.
So now
Yes.
now let's get into like
yeah.
the second most dangerous, and I would say like very less dangerous, insulin and growth hormone. Like, so a lot of people people are like, oh, insulin. You have to be really like, you have to not pay attention to die from insulin. Like, you really got to either mess up, have no idea what you're doing. You know, like there's been a lot of people who like mess up insulin and live just fine. But like very rarely does a bodybuilder strictly die from just like an insulin overdose, just acutely. Like that's a rare thing. But what happens is, so to now exacerbate, and I think this is probably what happened with Neil, is with the added, you know, the gear, the steroids, adding in large amounts of insulin and growth hormone causes an even larger amount of water to be put on the body. Now that water gets put around your heart. So now you're talking about raising your heart rate. A lot of people are now using and abusing insulin and growth hormone, leading to diabetes. So now they're having diabetic issues and not paying attention to those at all. Like I remember seeing him just be sweating, just like he was there just sweating. And I'm like, that, it looks like you're going hypo. So you're probably having some diabetic issues that you're ignoring and not paying attention. Because here's the thing, you're a bodybuilder and you're trying to get to the Olympus stage, you're trying to compete. Do you think you want someone to tell you that you have diabetes and now you need to regulate that and control that, and then that's going to lead to you checking out all these other health conditions? Like, most of them are like, I'm just going to keep pushing until whatever happens. Either I win or I die, and that's
until something. Yeah, you win or you die, literally.
So I think insulin gets abused by a lot of people unnecessarily, but I think it also gets labeled as being vastly more dangerous than it is. I think when you're talking about guys getting above 300 pounds, and maybe Charlie has a different, I don't hear a lot of people dying. I think it's leading to a lot of like problems long term, but I don't think a lot of bodybuilders are strictly just dying from it, just taking it once and then passing away. I think it's misuse and abuse over a period of time, combined with the other things that's causing like huge weight fluctuations, stress on the heart, diabetes. I mean, Charlie, what's your input on?
So I disagree completely that insulin is not dangerous.
It's not dangerous. I just say like people look at that.
I know.
I don't think it's the most dangerous out of all the things that bodybuilders use.
I do consider insulin the most dangerous thing bodybuilders use, in my opinion. Just because if somebody is highly, like, let's say a bodybuilder has always eaten super healthy, they have like amazing insulin sensitivity, right? And then they're like, their coach is like, hey, let's try to get you up to the next weight class. Let's try to put all these extra pounds on you, all this muscle. So we're going to start using this insulin. So this dude or female has no idea exactly how sensitive to insulin they are. 10 units of insulin to somebody who is a fast acting, like Lispro, for somebody who is very insulin sensitive and has never taken insulin before, can put them into hypoglycemic shock and kill them. 10 units. And that's not much. I know bodybuilders will use far more than that.
Yeah.
And so I will say, I think as a general rule, the bodybuilders that are using it
That's what I'm
responsibly.
just
You
saying.
don't
Like,
hear
it's labeled as the
about,
one that does, like,
yeah,
it can be like you die instantly. Like, so it's the most
yes,
dangerous in that manner. It's just not causing the majority of deaths in the bodybuilding industry.
no, bodybuilders aren't
Yeah,
dying from
that's the point I'm
insulin.
trying to make.
I mean, you don't hear about bodybuilders going into shock from having
But I
low
agree.
blood
It
sugar
is
and
the
dying.
thing
Like
that
that's
can, if used wrong, can kill you immediately. And so yeah, in that
yes,
way, like it is the most dangerous. It's just like not the one that's causing the most actual harm.
yes, yeah. You don't hear about, you don't see, or at least I haven't. You don't see bodybuilders dying from using
just
too
my
much
personal
insulin.
experience going to like some of these bigger competitions like the Olympia and Arnold, for people that think it's one way, I mean, I'll be honest, man, but most bodybuilders, they're freaking garbage cans, man. Like their lifestyle is, they party, they drink, they take other things to suppress how they feel on other things. And like, these are all things I've seen from like top people after some of these big events where I was like, dude, that is freaking crazy. So like, a lot of times when people see me, and I mean, you guys have seen me, Charlie, Nick knows how long it takes for me to take my fucking vitamins. Like people always ask me, they're like, oh, what do you take, this and that? I'm like, dude, it's a process. Like I got to divvy out like 20 bags of vitamins, like from everything to a multi to milk thistle to CoQ10 and turmeric and all this shit. Like, but most bodybuilders don't do that. They only get ready when they're prepping. Outside of that, it's excessive alcohol use, other recreational drugs, shitty diets, on top of all that other stuff. And so, like, when you look at some of these guys that look freaky and hella impressive, it's like, yeah, they look that way, but it's short-lived.
Yeah, I mean, look at like Antoine Valley. I don't know how to say his name, but like he just went back into rehab, and then like people look at him and like, oh, he's this idol. Like people are like, you're the YouTube idol, and it's like, dude, this dude's a major hardcore drug addict. And I'm comfortable saying that because I've had drug addicts in my family. I've had people pass away from it, and I've had people turn their lives around. But in the last few months, he just went into rehab again, and it's like there's a lot of bodybuilders who fall off. Like, oh, why'd they fall off? Because a lot of them do get addicted to other extreme things.
Yeah, there's tons of bodybuilders on the scene, pros or amateurs, that a lot of these guys don't even know about because of the fact that they were addicts and they started out taking, certain things to, make them feel happy or make them feel less stressed or this and that. And it's like, it's crazy because there's that dark side, you know what I mean? And so like when people ask me like, oh, well, this person's huge and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, shit, Nick, you were there at my pro competitions. I mean, I've stood next to some of the top guys in the business. I mean, these motherfuckers are pushing it. Like they're fucking huge, you know what I mean? And I understand that going into it, you know what I mean? Like, but I also understand too that when I wake up every day and do what I do, it's not to get to the Olympia stage. I mean, obviously I'm going to compete and be competitive, but I'm very comfortable at the level that I'm at. I've achieved eliteness, among the elite. And so like, I have a family, I have friends I care about, I have things I like to do outside of that. So for me, putting everything into going to the Olympia, yeah, I will be, serious with my prep. I will take it serious. I will follow my plan, but there's just certain realms I'm not willing to go to, man. I don't give a shit. I mean, I have people say it to me all the time. They're like, oh, you're an IFBB, bro. You're small. I'm like, yeah, but I'm still bigger than you motherfuckers. So, you know what I mean? Like, when you get on that level, let me know. So I think it's also too, like, people's expectations, like me and you hear it all the time, Nick, and I'm sure maybe CJ's heard people, he knows people that are like, yeah, man, I'm going to get huge and I'm going to turn pro.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
bro, if it were that fucking easy, everyone would fucking be doing that shit, man. Just like if there was fucking a bunch of, that's why there's only one Bill Gates and one Jeff Bezos and fucking all the, Paul Allen, because like there's just certain people that they're on a whole nother level of what they do. You just ain't getting to that, you know what I mean? And so you know, I understand. I tell people like, yeah, would it be cool to go to the Olympia? Absolutely. But am I willing to like risk my whole life and potentially not seeing CJ and you and Charlie and my kids and my wife for Olympia status or Arnold status and maybe some likes on Instagram? Fuck no, man. I don't give a shit about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, my kids, I have 4 children that think I'm the fucking coolest thing since sliced bread. I mean, that's all that matters to me. You know what I'm saying? So,
All right, we got a little too hot for TV there, and Mike got a little bit too real, so we had to restart a little bit. And so we are kind of going on to the next topic, which is what I believe is really the cause of the vast majority of not only like just deaths right away in bodybuilding, but also like the most harmful long term like damage, and that's combining stimulants and diuretics. Like those are the two that are really in combination going to kill you rather rapidly, and that's why most of the people are dying is like extreme diuretic protocols around their show when they're hopped up on a lot of stimulants. On top of that, T3, clenbuterol, Fedra, and pretty much any stimulant. So you put the heart under like extreme pressure, and then you throw in a bunch of diuretics, loop diuretics, aldactone, and you heavily deplete them of water. And you literally just set up an environment where in the short term they can have a heart attack, and they do, and they die, which is most likely what happened with this recent one, and is what has caused most of the deaths that I have heard of over the last few years. And the stimulants, trying to make their heart work so hard under a already dehydrated scenario. So what is the danger, Charlie, of combining extreme dehydration and stimulants?
I mean, extreme. It would depend on the stimulant, but I mean, as a general rule, stimulants cause you to further dehydrate, or past what you would already be at. That's not across the board stimulants, but most of the stimulants that bodybuilders are using in a pre-contest fashion, I mean, they're already most likely dehydrated, and then they're taking stimulants to try to have a little bit of energy because they're so fatigued.
And then taking T3, which raises heart rate.
Yeah, depending on of course, on the dose of T3, but I mean, if we're talking about like irresponsible use of like thyroid hormones, absolutely increasing heart rate, further increasing body temperature, which further causes them to lose more of their body's water.
Mm-hmm. And so what's going to happen when you go to like what's your body doing when it gets like extremely dehydrated that can lead to death?
That's not a good question to have on this. That was way too in depth for.
Way too complicated. But in general, no, it's just it's putting way too much stress on. Generally, you die from a heart attack in that scenario.
Yes, but not because of the stimulant per se.
No,
because of dehydration.
Yeah, the dehydration, and that's where I'll go to where I think is the most harmful. I think dehydration is the scariest thing that I've seen in bodybuilding.
And I mean, when you get dehydrated, then you're really messing with like your sodium-potassium balance, right? And potassium, high or low levels, can cause serious heart issues.
Mm-hmm. And that's in the long term too. So heart and kidney issues in the long term. And I think what the most serious thing, and this is not just for your like IFBB pro or your elite, it's dehydrating through competitions over and over and over again for many years on end. That is really damaging the kidneys and the heart, and is leading to those like complications and why people are dying in their mid 40s and 50s. I think that's what's really like pushing the lifespan down for a lot of these people. Is it's I don't think people realize how damaging it can be dehydrating over and over and over and over again, how much stress you're putting on your body's organs when you do that. Not just once, but we're talking about show after show. Most of these people aren't dying their first show. Most of them, like I said, when you get to a pro level, you've done quite a few shows. So it's like that ticking time bomb, like drinking and driving, where it's like, you don't get caught generally the first time, but like if you put your body in this position over, you do a little bit of damage and a little bit of damage and a little bit of damage, then eventually, like if your kidneys or your heart are already not functioning properly, and then you put them under stress again, it's just kind of like that. That's why someone at 36 or 37 can die laying on their floor. It's just like you've done so much damage, and that's where like CJ, where you're talking about, like that is where what the things that people are doing. It's just the process of competing, and us like judges wanting to get people to such extreme conditioning over and over and over and over again, and kind of how far, like, if you look at a bikini competitor when it first started, or a physique competitor when it first started, or you look at bodybuilders in the 70s and kind of going into the 80s, like the extreme levels of conditioning and depletion weren't really it wasn't a thing. It was really when diuretics started being introducing, and like even when they tested bodybuilding, they tested for diuretics. They weren't testing for steroids because people were dying from diuretic usage.
Coming from an outside perspective again, kind of like a 2-point question. So if you are not to use diuretics, is there an alternative that would get you similar results? And then secondly, would you say that at this point there's almost as much to blame then on the standard that is set in terms of how like dry you need to be?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I'll defer to Mike on one first for sure. So
I mean, I would say, so like what a lot of people don't realize, like in my situation, having the Graves' disease, having that thyroid mutation, so my thyroid was hyperactive, which means, like Nick said earlier, like I could crush thousands of calories, not be bloated, not gain weight. And so, when I got diagnosed with the Graves, the specialist said, you're sick like this because your body you're super physically fit and you have an hyperactive thyroid, which in most cases, people that have hyperthyroidism aren't usually living a clean lifestyle. They're still doing other shit, He goes, and because you don't, he goes, yours is even more dangerous. So your body's actually attacking itself. And so, in the past, when I would get ready for shows, I would water load. I would use things like dandelion root, all natural things. It wasn't until like I got progressively further into my bodybuilding career at a higher level where it's like I had done all the things I could do and achieved a look by just doing them with water loading and with dandelion root and milk thistle and things like that. And it got to a point where, like, after years of doing it, I needed something a little stronger because my body wasn't getting the reaction that I needed to achieve that look to be better at a higher level. So it's just one of those things, man. It's all in moderation. Like, these guys, no one wants to train or diet hard. That's the problem. People just want to, do it now for Instagram, and then come time for the show, they want to just diuretic the shit out of themselves. We've seen it happen a bunch of times, like a bunch of freaking times.
But I mean, I don't think people wouldn't know what a diuretic was unless the coach told them.
Exactly. So
I think that's where the onus is. Yeah. So I've seen my friend Christian at a show 4 or 5 years ago drop already shredded in the last week. His coach had him deplete every single day in the sauna, dropped another 20 pounds, and literally, like, could have died very easily. His entire body locked up. His entire body locked up because he was so depleted, so dehydrated, and His electrolytes were just thrown out. I'm literally
Yeah.
seeing this guy in pain. His coach nowhere to be found. Mark
Yeah.
Sindian, nowhere to be found. And this guy is literally scared, like, for potentially his life, because every single muscle in his body is literally cramping up. And
Yeah.
we just look over it. Like, we're just like, okay, and this just happened at another show with Mark's client. Mike was backstage with him as he's, freaking out because his whole body's cramping up because he's doing what his coach is telling him to do, which Mark comes from the Matt Porter pipeline. And, it's just like you're having first-time competitors deplete as hard as they can, keto as hard as they can, sauna as hard as they can. I don't know what diuretics he had him take, whether maybe he didn't have him take any, but he depleted him so bad.
Yeah.
And he had him take things that caused him he could have gone into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
Like, very easily. You're talking about a 23, 24-year-old, kid.
Yeah.
And, like, after the show, he's like, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I should have listened to you. Like, like, this happens a lot. And it's time that people realize, like coaches should know better. And so in this case, like Shelby Starnes, these aren't the first time. This isn't like the first time these things are happening. Like, this happens over and over and over and over. And it gets to the point, it's like, well, why do I say bodybuilding is dying? It's because no one's really looking out for the health of the athletes. You have a client die and no one even, like, kind of blinks an eye about it. You're like, oh, well, they made their own decisions. It's like people are coming to you and they're trusting you.
Yeah.
They are looking at you for advice. And what's always interesting is that, what they always say, Mike? Hey, just do whatever your coach tells you. Don't bitch, don't complain. Do what your coach tells you. And then it's like, if something bad happens, they'll be like,
yeah,
well, they made their own choice.
Why didn't you say something?
It's crazy to me. And then so I go and I say, Mark, you're a terrible coach. And I have 50 people DM me because he's put them in the hospital, potentially could have very easily killed them because he comes from a pipeline of someone who has damaged people. And they're just walking around with these new competitors like it's nothing. Like, it's crazy to me. And until this, like, stops, like, I think the sport's gonna suffer. I mean, how many people are gonna continue to either die or get hurt? Yeah. And that's just the people like are Skyline. That's just the people who are like top of the industry. How many people at a lower level have kidney failure and heart disease because of just straight up bad coaching? And I think a lot of things once you get to a certain level, you have to kind of keep going there. And if you decide you want to keep competing, it's like you kind of have to keep pushing the limits. And then if you're not winning, because maybe you're just not genetically, maybe you're just not going to genetically win, you're like, well, I just got to push it more and more and more. And no one's there to be realistic and be like, why did you start this in the first place? To better yourself, to improve yourself. And it's only like after something happens that we're like, oh man, can't believe it. So sad.
Yeah.
It's not sad. It should piss people off. It pisses me off. And that's why I get angry about it. That's why I call people out on it. Because, like, you're having, like, people hate the sport.
I mean,
because their first show, their coach messed them up.
Is that these first-time competitors, they're putting their trust in something like that, and they're getting messed up. So now they don't even realize they're messed up, right? So they just go, oh, well, I didn't get the good result that I wanted or I didn't place. I'm going to go to this coach. And then this coach hits them with a different protocol. So it's like this recycling of, like, competitors that over time, that's how these guys end up, getting sick and messing themselves up because, this coach may have done something for them and they didn't get it and they didn't win an overall or place. So they go to this coach or they go to that coach. And so that's also the frustrating part too, is like, no one wants to just take the time to figure it out safely and how to do it right. They just want that win, man. It sucks.
And I just think, like, we continue supporting these coaches who are doing it. No, where are these promoters? If your client is backstage freaking out, like potentially like passing out, going to the hospital, like some of that as a promoter falls on you.
Yeah.
If you're allowing people that this has happened to, like there's got to be some level of like consequence for these coaches. And until they're like, in what other sport can you kill a client and just?
Well, I was just saying
Does that happen
I
in
was just
that?
saying like they can walk away
So-
scot free. But I mean, real quick before you
Go
go
ahead,
to
CJ.
you, Charlie, like
Yeah.
to go back to the initial question that Nick asked me, or kind of statement about, you know, as someone who I am admittedly interested in getting into the world of bodybuilding, I didn't think that I would ever be interested in it, to be honest. But being in this environment, you know, it kind of just happens realistically. Like you see everyone around you. I hang out with Mike all the time. I feel like a small piece of shit, and then like you know you want to get part of that. But then like to go back like Nick's point about like the standards and whatnot. Like I naturally just as a competitive person, like I want to win, like first try, like right away and stuff like that. And like when I see some of the dudes that go to our gym they go to West Coast and then they compete and they get like third, and then I'm hearing about all these people that are dying, and I'm hearing about all these health issues from as someone who like if anyone should be getting into the sport that's new, it should be someone like me, right? Like I have every single thing that should make me want to get into it. But then there's like 5 or 6 things that it's like, is this even worth it to me at all to like invest all this time and money and potential health issues into? Like, I don't think so. But Charlie, what were you going to say?
Well, yeah, on like the health issues, you know, is it worth it, you know, and I think a lot of these younger guys that are getting these coaches, they don't see that or think about that. All they're seeing or thinking is, I want to be big, I want to win, and I'm going to do whatever it takes,
as fast
right?
as possible.
As I like
That's
to say,
the caveat.
I like to say young, dumb, and full of cum, or vice versa for females, right? They want to be the best, and so they're willing to do whatever, to take whatever,
Right.
to most likely probably not even win an overall in a state or regional show. And so it is really, I think, an overall bodybuilding community problem for like CJ was saying, like the standards that are out there. Like, well, if the standards that are out there are causing all of this, then either bodybuilding is going to change for the better, or it is going to continue to slowly die and be replaced with classic physique. But you know, all of these other, all these other
and
classes.
I really think that like when you're talking about like these pros, these women's physique bodybuilders, like these high Dallas McCarvers and the Matt Porters, like they very 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 well know the risks, and they're willing to overlook it. Like they know the issue that I have is how that trickle down affects 100 times as many people, because every one of those people who died had clients that told them to probably do very similar things to what they were doing, and maybe they start having clients, and so now this information just starts getting passed. I hope and I pray that one of these people is going to be a big enough it's kind of like school shootings. I hope this is the last one, you know, and then another one happens, and I hope this is the last one. It's like when I have a problem when that 22-year-old girl, that 25-year-old guy gets put in a position where they put their health at risk. That 40-year-old guy who just wants to feel better, you know, maybe that mom who's uncomfortable with herself and wants to better herself, gets on a bunch of shit that they don't need to by bad coaches who just want to put people on stage to make themselves look better, to make money off them. I think this is why I piss off so many people in the sport, is because I don't make money off competing, so I can say whatever the hell I want to say. So if I think you suck at coaching, Marks and Diane, you suck at coaching, you're a terrible coach and you damage people, and I've dealt with them and I've seen the messages, okay, you know, there's a reason you blocked me on everything. There's a reason why all your previous clients come tell me this. Like, you start seeing these just like groups that just keep changing and changing and changing because this group gets messed up and then they get new clients to replace it because they have all these pretty pictures of these people that have been on stage, and then like I see it happen over and over and over again. And so like I just want like people to realize like the things that you do and you put in your body have consequences, and I want to see the sport get to a place where like you can do it healthy because you can. You don't need to take 100 to 200 milligrams or micrograms of T3. You don't need to do it. You don't need to take 100 to 200 micrograms of clenbuterol. You don't need to do it. Like, you do not need to use diuretics as a bikini girl. If you do, you got a bad coach. Just going to throw that out there. If you're a bikini girl and you use a diuretic, you have a terrible coach. You should fire that coach. You can find someone else. Like, you're equating bodybuilder practices to men's physique guys, to classic physique guys, to women's figure and bikini on a local level, and it's crazy. It's got to stop. It's absolutely got to stop. So yeah, hopefully these people get called out. But you know, I wanted to get on. I wanted to talk about this because we're talking, and a lot of people are talking about the high level competitors who are having these things, and I think it's time we start focusing on the local level competitors, and at least people will know where I stand, and hopefully get a little more perspective on how to do this safely, because someone like you, CJ, you should be getting into it and you should love it, and you can do so well naturally, and just take time here. It took Mike over 10 years to get a pro card. Over 10 years. You know, you have a lot of time, but you only have one body. So don't feel like you need to rush it, and don't let someone else rushing the process discourage you from doing things
that if
in the most healthy way possible.
A single person questions a coach's, direction after watching this, a single person says, you know what, why is my coach giving me a diuretic as a bikini girl? If one person questions it after watching this, I think that this was a worthwhile conversation, and it was worth having.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
You obviously know I'm passionate about this. This is a good first run at the Fit for Life podcast, and the next one should be a lot more fun, not as serious, because I don't know. It's a serious week, guys. But if you stayed till the end, please just do us a favor, subscribe, like, comment below. If you stayed to
this video, comment a dolphin emoji, and we will send you a free shirt. If you stayed to the end of this video, we will send you a free shirt. Comment a dolphin emoji.
There it is.
Don't say why that's cheating. The deal will be canceled if I find out that somebody spilled the beans.
Yeah, I have like 6,000 dolphin emojis down there. Yes. But you have to subscribe too. Subscribe.
Yeah, it feels weird.
And comment. We'll hook you up.
Yeah.
We are going to do a bunch of giveaway. I didn't want to do a giveaway on this video because I wanted to just be like, I didn't want it to be a gimmicky or like this one. I just wanted us to give you information this week. But all of our videos moving forward, we're going to be doing a bunch of giveaways and give back. And our goal is just to provide value to you guys in whatever way that we can, and bring you into to our lives a little bit. So thank you for watching till the end. If you did, out.